All right, welcome back to episode 2 of the Start the Rebuild podcast. I'm your co-host Tim Fournier, alongside Ian Mills.
What's up? Yeah, the rebuild square, rebuilding, start the rebuild. I like how you phrase
Yes,
that.
we are, as we said before, legitimately starting the rebuild.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we're second week in a row. I mean, that's like coming up to a record for us.
I know we're normally like 3 in 1 week and then stop for 6 months.
Yes, that is typically how we do it. But yeah, I'm liking this format, 2 weeks in, liking this format, liking the pace we're at, once a week, just talking about whatever, you know. So last week we did a bit of a week in review, and I think that's kind of the structure we're going to look for more so this week. Last week we talked about I had a big project that I was working on. We talked about kind of career goals for both of us. But Tim, how was your week? What'd you do this week, man?
So I've kind of had a crazy week. Um, in terms of events, there's a big. This is kind of specific to our high school, actually. Big fundraiser event that is a yearly thing every year that I've gone to as a not a student, but an actual like graduate in person in society rather than just one of the kids that works the event, because the majority of the school works it. And went with some friends, and that was interesting. So yeah, I went to Bash, is what I'm saying. Obviously, you know what that is.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. Really weird to go and feel like you're on like the same level as a lot of the teachers and stuff. And like some of my old teachers were working the bar, and I was drinking like rum and cokes from an old science teacher. Like, so that's,
Wait, who was bartending?
I
Or I
mean,
guess,
I guess it doesn't, I mean, I
yeah.
could drop,
I guess you probably shouldn't say. I take it back. I take it back. Never
but
mind.
we're going to say you know who this is,
Okay.
science teacher at our old high school that is bald and had a son in our grade.
It's gonna take me a second. It's gonna take me a second. But yeah, continue your
Mr.
story. I gotta think about this.
H.
Science teacher? He wasn't a science teacher, was he?
Pretty sure, yeah. Yeah, he definitely was. All right, whatever. That's
I,
irrelevant.
I know who you're
But
talking about, but yeah.
okay. Um, so did that. That was crazy. Really interesting to be in that kind of setting. That was something. And other than that, I was just telling you about this. Played basketball 2 weeks ago in shoes that I haven't worn in 5 years. Got blisters on my feet. 3 days later, one of them gets infected. I guess this was almost 3 weeks ago now. And so I went to urgent care. They prescribed me antibiotics, and it got a lot better in a week, but it was only enough meds for a week. Then it started getting worse again. Went back to urgent care. They gave me different medicine, did nothing, kept getting worse. And I'm talking like foot swollen, limping around for a week, 2 weeks at a time, like really uncomfortable. And then I went to my actual doctor. They gave me medicine, and literally from the time that I went in at like 9 a.m. or something like that to the doctor's appointment till like 2 in the afternoon, the infection spread across my foot and was 10 times worse. So they told me to go to the ER, and I got like blood tests and everything, and it all came back fine. And they prescribed me new medicine. I was there for like 5 hours. I left at like 2 in the morning, and I my options were either stay for 12 to 36 hours and get pumped with medicine through an IV, or go home and just take the meds that they prescribed me. And they said staying would have maybe a marginal benefit, and it wouldn't be perfect by the time I left anyway. So I was like, screw it, get me out of here. Um, so that's where I'm at now. And the new meds, 2 days in, definitely helping a lot. So that's good because I leave for a trip to Florida to visit my family tomorrow. So we're on the up and up, but kind of a crazy week. How about you?
Yeah. Do you think the foot's gonna affect you in Florida? Affect your escapades down there?
Um, I hope not. Um, my goal was, because I had kind of started to get into running and stuff, that it was going to be so nice to maybe run in some mornings in
Mhm.
Florida when it's warm and nice out, and not upstate New York where it's like one day 50 degrees and the next day snowstorm. So probably won't be able to do that. And they said on the beach and stuff, just be careful and make sure it doesn't get like cut by a
Yeah.
shell or something like that. But it shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, yeah, I mean, last week I finished off my that big project, and I was talking about how
Yeah.
I just want to relax for a little bit, and it's weird. Like when I like relaxing, for much of my life has just been like, okay, I'm gonna sit in on the couch, watch TV, because it's like when you work like as much as you do, you'd rather just kind of do nothing, right?
Yeah.
But I decided I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. That's what I always do. I always just chill, play video games, whatever. I'm gonna try to just better myself, cook more, go to the gym more. So I've been doing that. I mean, I cook pretty much every day before that, but I'm trying to do it, like more so. But yeah, going back to the gym, getting back to the gym last week or so, it's been nice. It's a nice little, I mean, I don't know how to tell you. You obviously are savant when it comes to that. But no, I don't haven't been going too recently, but the last week and a half or so, I've been going pretty much every day, which has been a nice change of pace. It's nice to like get out of work, okay, go to the gym for an hour and a half or whatever it is, which has been super dope. And hoping to, make that a habit at this point. And then it was also, yeah, it was my girlfriend's birthday. It's my girlfriend's birthday on Sunday. She was sick though, so it was a little bit of a, couldn't do much. We couldn't do much. I mean, I went to go visit her, but we watched a lot of TV. I know I said I was gonna try not to watch TV, but she was sick, so we decided to watch a lot of TV, watch some movies. Saw her family
What shows
for
and movies?
we watched May December. Crazy story, dude. Crazy story. So I had heard of this movie just because I think it was one of the actors was nominated for an Oscar, Charles Melton, I believe, for supporting actor. Basically, okay, this it's loosely based on a true story. I'll tell you the true story, not the movie, because it's easier to explain. Basically, and there was this kid. He was since second grade. Him and his teacher had a pretty good relationship. Like they just stuck
Hmm.
around, hung out, whatever. And then when he was 12, he was basically like dared to kiss her by like his friend, and so he did it and she was down for it. Like she was cool with it. She liked it. And so one thing led to another. She got pregnant and she was like, in her late 20s or in her 30s, and he was 12. Basically, they find out about it. They're like, yo, what the hell? Like that is, not okay. So they send her to prison. In the middle of the court case, she has the child, right? They send her to prison for 7.5 years. 6 months in, she's basically like, hey, I'm a good person. Like, please leniency. They let her out, put her on
For six
parole
months?
for 6 months. They say they let her out, put her on parole, and say, hey, listen, you can never have any contact with this boy, this child again. The first day out, they meet up. She gets pregnant again,
Bro.
and they send her back to prison for 7 years. She gets out 7 years later, and the dude he's not an adult, he's like 19. So I wouldn't even say an adult. I mean, technically he's an adult, but he's still like a child, basically. He gets out and he goes to the judge and is like, yo, get rid of this. Like, I need to be able to see her. Like she's cool. It's cool. Get rid of the you know, uh, let her be able to see me, right? And the judge is like begrudgingly apparent. Well, hopefully begrudging. Hopefully they didn't jump at the gills to do this. But begrudgingly, they were like, "Yeah, it's cool. Like, go. You can see each other." A couple years later, they get married. So she has two kids. Both of them are hit. Well, I think she has more kids, more with like, you know, another husband. But they get married. He's like 25 at this point. She's like 40 something at this point, and they're married for like 12 years. They get divorced, and then eventually she dies. But that is what the movie is based on. And the movie is based on what they're like once he's like an adult, once like the kids are like old enough to go to college. And it's again, it's very loosely based on the true story. But the true story, I looked it up afterwards, is insane. Great movie also. But
Wow.
yeah, yeah, I couldn't believe that was like a real thing. Like when I was watching it, I was like, I knew it was sort of loosely based on a true story, but like when I looked it up, I was like, how did this
Wait, and
happen?
she had kids with other people too?
So in the movie she did, in real life, she was married in real life when this all happened. But I don't know if they had kids or not.
So
But in the
she's
movie she did. So
really
it's
liking the 12-year-old compared to
really just down to clown. I don't even, I feel horrible. I feel horrible saying that. Yeah, this kid is a victim. And he even came out about it like they obviously divorced. So when you're married to the person, what are you going to be like? You can't be like, oh, I'm a like, can you say like, oh, I'm a victim? It's like, well, you're married to them, so it's kind of weird. And then now that he's divorced, he's very much like, oh, okay, like that was what she did was like a horrible thing, which is 1,000% true. That is horrible. That is like
yeah,
doubling
I
down.
mean that probably just like messed up his
Oh, for sure,
brain.
for sure. So we watched that. It was a good
Wow.
movie. Yeah, crazy movie. We watched that. It was a good movie. And then we started watching, I think last week I was talking about Love is Blind a little bit. And Love is Blind, the Netflix show, whatever, it's not important. But we were watching that. We finished that. And then we went to this other show called The Circle, dude. It is really entertaining, man. It's about these people. It's like you're all in like one hotel building, all in different apartments, and you can only like talk to each other over like Messenger, and like all they see is like the photos you use on like your social media, and then like the bio you use, and then you basically everyone does this, and they rank each other on how much they like each other, like how cool they are. And then whoever is the last person surviving wins like $100,000 or whatever. And now that I say it out loud, it does sound like a horrible experiment. Like it sounds just like a horrible thing for human people to do. But it's pretty entertaining. So
Is it
there's that.
like reality TV? Like,
Yeah, it's
is it
reality
like
TV.
scripted
Yeah.
acting?
No, it's reality TV. It's reality
Gotcha.
TV. And like certain people will pretend to be like this one guy's like pretending to be his mom because he's like, oh, my mom's more likable than I am, so I'll be my mom, which is sort of, whatever. Um, Kind of weird. But did that. We went to super fancy restaurant for her birthday. Her family
Very
took us.
nice.
We went to somewhere not as when it was just her and I did not take her to as fancy of a restaurant, full disclosure. But that was because I knew we were gonna go to a fancy restaurant, dude. Got filet mignon. It
Let
was
Mignon.
filet mignon. Um, it was I'll admit, like I make steak probably every other week. Probably cook
Hmm.
myself steak every other week. It tasted very similar to the steak that I make, which was a little, and I don't make, filet mignon.
Maybe
What
you're just a good cook.
I might just be a good cook, I think. I might just be a good cook. I might just be a good chef it up, a little salt and S&P, a little garlic
Mm.
powder, a little onion powder, little minced onion
You gotta
mayhaps.
try some Montreal seasoning.
Montreal. I think I have that in my cabinet because I think I
Really
really
good.
used it. I might have to try on steak.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll have to try that out then.
Really good. That's what I put
Yeah,
on there.
we did that and that was really good. Just kind of hung out. And then since then, we're in this for work. We're in this part where it's spring sports season.
Mm.
Spring sports, it has more sports than any other season. Baseball, softball, boys across, girls across, and now flag football is huge. Flag football is
Mm.
huge now, dude. Um, and it's not
Girls
like
and boys, right?
for my area, it's just girls.
Oh, it's just girls.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
just girls.
I feel
But
like that's growing a lot for girls.
it
Because
is. It is. Yeah.
Chanel, our friend, just drove. He came in for Bash, and then he drove up to Buffalo because his sister was in some type of tournament, and they got to play at like the Bills practice facility or something.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, the
That's growing, which I think is sick because
it
it's a
is
sport that girls have never been able to play, really.
yeah, and if you watch it, it is really entertaining. Like it is just as entertaining. Because like people are like, "Oh, well, it's gonna be like no contact." That's not really true. Like it sort of is still very, very very a lot of contact. Because like if you run a girl over and she doesn't grab your flag, like you're still good. Like you can still run. Like and I've seen
Yeah.
that before. Uh so yeah, that's been growing. And the difference is like people are going to say, well, fall sports has, soccer, football, field hockey, and volleyball. The difference though is that in fall, if you get football, nobody like everyone's cool with whatever else you do. Like as long as you get all the football games, like everyone's cool with it. But like in spring, there is no definitive number one sport. Everything's sort
Right.
of
It's
laid
kind of
out
preference.
evenly. Yeah. So that's sort of what I'm doing, just kind of trying to like trying to find a better work-life balance than I've had the last couple months because of that project. And
Sure.
most of it has just been like doing this and then going to the gym, which has been super nice.
Yeah. One other question on the football thing. I'm sure you saw that the NFL banned the hip drop tackle thing, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that were upset about it. I think it's one of those things that's probably going to be annoying to adjust to in the beginning, but then kind of be fine over time. Like I bet there was an adjustment like that when they got rid of like horse collar tackles. Um,
Maybe.
I feel like it's going to be something like that, and I think the way they're going about it, where people are going to be fined right away when they've been tackling like that for literally their entire life, is kind of dumb. But regardless of that, there was a lot of people that responded all up in arms, upset, and they're like, "Why don't we just wear flags?"
Yeah.
Here's my question: if in 30 years football just keeps devolving like this, there's too many injuries, all everything like that, and it is literally just flag football, would you watch? Would you be as interested, and would it be as popular?
I think
Like,
it is
is there
going
a
to.
world where that is successful?
I think the NFL is preparing for like if you're watching the NFL, they do flag football leagues all the time. Obviously, youth football now at this point, Pee Wee football at this point is basically just flag football, and it probably should be. Do I think it'll be as popular? No, I don't. Unfortunately, but I think I would still watch. I would definitely still watch because I'm a huge. I mean, we're
Yeah,
big football fans. I would definitely still watch, but I think unfortunately for football, there is an ounce of like people's desire to watch like violence,
right.
organized violence. You know what I mean? Like that is sort of part of the appeal for some people, not saying us, some people's appeal for football. And I do think it is bigger than people realize. Like I think people won't admit it, but that is a huge part of the reason
Oh,
why
I
like
would
it
definitely
hit.
admit, I feel like that's a big draw to it, and I feel like that's something that's being taken out a lot in the last 10,
Yeah,
15 years.
yeah,
I don't know if
definitely.
I can necessarily disagree with it because, well, obviously, player safety is so important, everything like that. I think there's also an argument on the other side of like these, that's kind of what these guys are signing up for, and they're kind of getting compensated for it, like for that level
Yeah.
of risk. When
Well,
you're getting like some of these guys are getting paid like three times, if not like way more than that, the salary of like a heart surgeon.
yeah.
Like, is
Right,
that
but the
okay?
shell life.
Like, I don't know.
But the shell life is so much shorter. Like the average
Right,
NFL career is
right,
well,
right.
like 3 years. And a lot of those guys, like if you're on like a rookie deal, if you're like a late round pick, rookie deal, like
Mhm.
in you play 3 years and 3 years only, like you're making less than $3 million probably in your career,
Yeah.
right? And
If you're playing so little that
yes,
you're not gonna last
yeah,
longer than 3 years, then you're probably not at that much risk of injury.
true. I guess that's true. You're probably not that much risk, but you never know. Also, I
But
mean,
if you have like a eight,
you're
9 year
playing.
career, you're making minimum $30 million.
Yeah, I wouldn't say minimum. Like
If
eight.
unless you're like, well, I mean, if you get a second and third contract, you're not going to be getting paid like. I guess there's
True.
guys that are like that.
They're definitely. I think feel like there are just because NFL, the NFL, so quickly like just gets rid of guys who are like older. Like nobody wants to pay a guy on their second contract, but like have like if you're good enough, it's gonna happen.
Hmm.
But it gets to a point where like there are guys out there who are not like if their second contract basically like the whole thing is like well you're not good enough for us to pay you more than a rookie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So either you're going to take a huge pay cut or you're not going to play, and I feel like that does exist. But also, like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, like, I mean, obviously they know what they're signing up for, but like we've seen it over the course of just the history of the NFL, like how former players have just been, once they're retired, once they get older, it's like horrible on their brain.
Mhm.
Um, and we glorify like the sport, which is great, but like it also is like, well, it'd be nice if we could do this, you know, pay them, but also like, okay, maybe once they're 60, they're still like cognizant, and there
Yeah.
still are, there's hundreds of guys who are still like very, very, cognizant once they're up at that age, but
Yeah, yeah.
there's some guys who are not. And so, yeah, I do think the NFL is kind of moving, definitely moving in towards the ways of less and less contact to protect players. The hip drop tackle, I don't really know. Is it just like, what is it? I'm just sort of confused. Like, how does it help in terms
So,
of player safety?
there's a lot of injuries that happened, especially last year, where it's kind of when there's two players coming at each other and a guy grabs someone from the side and swings his body around behind them, and then his
Oh,
weight
okay.
drops on the back of their leg. Um, the one there was multiple injuries from it. That's how Mark Andrews broke his leg this past year. Logan Wilson on the Bengals had a hip drop tackle, so
Yes.
he grabbed him from the side. You swing your body around from the back and let your weight drop on the back of them. I feel like it's kind of it's very subjective on if that's a hip drop. Like one of those things is a hip drop tackle or not. I almost feel like it could end up being one of those things where it's like
Yeah.
they're only going to call it if it looks like it could have hurt the other player.
Yeah.
And then it could turn into one of those things of like you just have to like sell it at the end of the play, and the offensive player will like limp to the sideline, and then all of a sudden there's a 15-yard flag.
Yeah, I was going to like,
Um,
how common is this tackle? Like when I was thinking of it, I feel like it's a pretty,
it's very common
yeah, I
when
was gonna
this
say,
is
I feel
what
like
I've
you see it.
seen. They'll like throw it to the flat to a tight end, and
Yeah.
it's like a 250-pound tight end versus a 190-pound corner that's covering the flat, and they have to like come in from the side and they catch up to them from the side. And the only way to really get them down, or the majority of the way they bring them down, is kind of to like grab them and then like pull their weight back. So everyone's now saying like tight ends in the flat are going to be untackleable because they're outweighing these guys by 70 pounds, and it's the only way to tackle them. I guess we'll see how it goes. They also
Yeah.
changed kickoffs, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. The kickoff, I don't know. Like they've been toying with the kickoff the
I
last.
kind of like the change they made. Have you seen it?
It's the XFL rule, right? Where like there's no running
Mhm.
start and they both start like on the, was it the 35? Like both, they're kind of on opposite ends, right?
Yeah, at the basis of it, it creates less of like a major impact from players
Yeah.
running into each other from 30 yards away at full speed. But at the same time, the way the rules are made, I can't rattle off at the top of my head right now. It encourages you to bring it out. So it's kind of the
Mhm.
best of both worlds of
Okay, cool.
exciting kick returns, because almost every single time they just kick it out of the back of the end zone and we just waste 5 minutes of our lives.
Right.
There's going to be more kickoff returns, but the thought process is less injuries because there's not a it's only people running at each other from 10 yards away, rather than some guy getting a full 30-yard full sprint, like just
Right.
cracking dudes in the head.
Right.
So I think it could be good. It's definitely worth a shot, and I think it has. Not that I watched a ton of XFL football, but I think it was successful from that. So
Yeah, I mean the NFL kickoff has been basically useless like the last
yeah, just waste
year.
everyone's time for five
Yeah.
minutes.
So anything to change it, I mean, like this could be like a last ditch effort. Like if this doesn't, I mean, it seems like it's gonna work out, but like if it doesn't, it's like, all right, the kickoff is sort of,
I
yeah,
agree. And I would have no problem with every team just starts on the 25-yard line. But if you want, but then if it's like you want to convert an onside kick to get the ball back, you have to like convert fourth
yeah,
and 20 or something like that
yeah, I agree. I mean, that's another XFL
on
thing
your
that.
own 40 or something like I don't know.
Do you think, now just going off NFL rules, do you think the NFL ever goes to the college style overtime, but not starting from the 20, starting from like your own 40? Like I feel like because offenses are just so good at this point. If you start from the
where
20,
everyone gets a
yeah,
chance no matter what.
yeah. I just think that is more exciting. I don't know. I feel like the NFL overtime kind of just sucks.
I do
Um,
too, and that would be a great point because they're all worried about the higher levels of the NFL because scoring was way down last year. That would
yeah,
definitely be a way to have higher scoring games if you had college overtime. I know you're saying moving the ball back, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, just because NFL offenses are so good, like maybe not your own 40, but they could figure out where to start. It just yeah, I don't think it can be the 20.
I think
Um,
college overtime is just better.
College overtime is way better. It's way more exciting. NFL overtime is basically like after the first drive happens, it's like we sort of know who's going to win, it feels like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
My only big thing is that I feel like if it goes into overtime, something like that, uh, like towards your historical stats, it doesn't count as touchdowns.
oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, I mean they could probably figure out a way to get that done. I mean, yeah, because then you almost like want to go to overtime if you're trying to like get like a like compensation or whatever.
That's just the way I think about it. Like even now that they've added another game to the season and now like records are being broken more often, that always bothers me. Maybe that shouldn't bother me so much. But
No,
if
I
like
agree.
the touchdown record in a game is 7, and then the first year this rule is enacted, Pat Mahomes throws 12 touchdowns in a game because
That's
it goes
fair.
to overtime
That's
and it goes
fair.
to 4 overtimes. It's
You
like,
could do you could do like regulation records though, because I think this all the 7 passing touchdowns have all been in regulation.
right.
So you could say like, okay, what is the regulation record? I do agree. I mean, numbers are getting so gaudy at this point. Like, you remember when Peyton Manning threw for 55 touchdowns and broke all
Yeah.
the records, and it was like he shattered like
Yeah.
the previous record was 50, and it was
Still
like
hasn't been broken.
yeah, and exactly. And it's like that was insane. But like now it's like I kind of look at it and it's like, oh, how has Pat Mahomes not gotten there? Like, oh, because didn't Pat have like 48 his first full year starting, something like
Something
that?
like that. Yeah.
And Josh Allen's had 40 plus the last 4 seasons. And it's like, well, that's eventually someone's gonna eventually get to 55. Um, and you're adding a
Scoring
game and
has
doing
just been
this.
it's weird though. Like
It is weird
with
that
the
it's went down.
explosion of like the
I think
passing game,
defenses have
it's
been catching up though. I think defenses have
yeah.
been catching up, and that's sort of what we've seen. Um,
Because the run game was more efficient than ever this year.
yeah. But also, I
Very in
think
a different way, but
also, I mean, you have to be like this year, quarterbacks have been like this year, this was such a bad quarterback year. Like
yeah, there were so many injuries.
this was the year of the backup quarterback. I mean, we talked about it last week, but like Lamar getting MVP, like his numbers are one of the worst MVP. And it doesn't mean he had a bad year. It just means everyone was down. Like Josh Allen's stats were down. Pat Mahomes' stats were down, definitely down. And it's sort of just like, yeah, like I don't know. I just think it was kind of a down year for quarterbacks in
Yeah,
general. And the backup quarterback thing certainly affects that. I think it'll bounce back. I mean, once you get, once you just your defense has figured it out maybe a little bit, and I also think we'll see the opposite end, the opposite, swing of the spectrum, and okay, offenses now figure it out. So
yeah.
yeah, it'll be sort of a thing. But
It's kind
talking
of
a
the way the
little,
NFL goes. Is they have
yeah,
a major trend and then they have like a correction and then the new thing
ebbs
comes.
and flows. Remember when Wildcat quarterback was like the big thing like 15
Hmm.
years ago, and like it was like this was taking over the league, and then when do you
Like
see Wildcat quarterback like twice a season?
there was the massive thing when uh the Seahawks became really good with the Legion of Boom, and then all of a sudden every single team ever was running like a cover 3 defensive scheme, and they wanted like big long corners and everything like that. And now and that was like Vic Fangio's kind of original scheme, and like every disciple like that is now getting fired because teams have just caught up to how to beat that. So
Yeah, Vic Fangio looked like very washed up this season.
well,
Um,
Vic Fangio has actually been at the forefront of adapting. It's just like
yeah,
all of his disciples that all they ever knew was Vic Fangio's cover 3, blah blah, are now just getting like axed. But yeah,
yeah,
all
yeah,
of a sudden we've gone back to talking about sports, which I
yeah,
think is fine. I think
which
that's
is
good.
fine. But I asked you about
It's
this, just
natural.
keeping on the sports side of it. March Madness going on right now. A lot of March
Yeah,
Madness going
yeah.
on. No, what like this is I love college basketball as someone who covers college basketball. As someone who
Mhm.
covers mid-major, low major,
Yeah.
division one college basketball. I love college basketball. I'm curious from your perspective. I mean, you went to major division one college. Your team got upset in the first round. Do you see yourself as a casual college basketball guy or you're more of a hardcore guy?
So I definitely don't follow college basketball as much as I follow the NFL or the NBA in
Hmm.
terms of a regular season type of thing. I watch almost every Wisconsin game because I went there. Like I follow them very heavily. Um, I've never really been a huge like regular season, like I'm keeping up with college basketball like really intensely. I've had some seasons where I'm like very into it, some where I'm not. I'd say I didn't watch a ton of college basketball outside of Wisconsin this year. Um, Probably less this year than the last 4 years,
Hmm.
maybe 3 or 4 years. Um, I think part of that is college basketball is just kind of like down right now. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of like big storylines, really great teams, really great players. And there's probably a lot to say about that. But it's probably the sport that I follow the third most. I'll say.
Okay. All right, third most. I would say for me, it's weird because so like college basketball is in a weird spot right now where we saw it where there was a lot of when you come to at-large bids, a lot of them are going to like very mediocre, very average, like high major programs.
Yeah.
Just because they played better teams. Like I mean, Nebraska got in. Virginia was the big one. Everyone had to sink over. Like Virginia's had a horrible year, but they still got in because they were an ACC team.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting because like covering mid-major basketball, like your regular season matters so much because it's your your whole thing is getting seeding in your conference tournament because the only way you're getting into the NCAA tournament is your to win your conference.
Yeah, I
So
think every game matters more because the
yes,
tournament matters way
yes,
more than anyone else's conference or like the Power Five conference tournaments.
exactly. So
And
it's like
but at the same time, it like almost makes it makes the regular season more important and less important
yeah,
because the tournament is the most important thing, but seeding in your tournament is even more important. Like
yeah,
getting the double bye or whatever
yeah,
is 1,000 times more important when you're like that
yeah.
versus like your Big Ten and you can just get in by having like a pretty good Big Ten record.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's something like, Binghamton
That's
University
cool.
where I go, like it's weird because like Vermont has owned the America East for the last decade. They've won 8 straight
The
regular
Catamounts.
season titles. Yeah, the Catamounts.
You're not a Vermont guy. I mean, they're just like in your conference
They're just in the conference and they just
and
own the
they're
America
good.
East the
My
last eight
dad grew
seasons.
up in Vermont, so I always root
Oh,
for
really?
Vermont.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Oh, yeah. John Becker,
No
head
reason
coach
other
of
than that.
America. Um, But yeah, they've owned the conference, whatever. But like they've won 8 straight, regular season titles, and of those 8 years, I think they've gone to the NCAA tournament like 5 years, something like that. Um, so yeah, they've
How have
what's
they
up?
won the tournament 8 times but only
No,
gone to the
regular
Oh,
season,
okay. I was gonna say
regular.
that makes no sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it just goes to show you, like it's possible. Like Hartford, a couple years ago, won the Americas tournament, and then immediately announced they were going to Division 3, which is an insane move. But that's just sort of like the nature of mid-major basketball. Um, but I don't know. For me, like because of that, I pay more attention to like the other mid-major programs that Binghamton
Hmm.
are playing. So like I know more about like the MAAC than I do, the Big Ten sometimes. So it's kind of funny to watch it and be like St. Pete's was like a 15 seed, and it's like, oh well, like they have some guys. But yeah, I don't know. I've honestly like last year I was getting pretty big into March Madness, but this season more so. Like I watched more games this year than I have in years, and man, it is such a maybe just because there's a lot of close games, a lot of overtime games this year. Like I feel like it's such a fun event. Like I understand people do
Yes.
the whole, like college
Once March
basketball.
Madness starts, I'm locked in, which a lot of people say, and that's kind of a casual thing to say. But
Yeah, people do the whole like college basketball is such a bad product. It's like, but it's so much fun to watch. It is so much
yeah,
fun to watch. Like almost like the fact that like you see those horrible shots that take. Like I think it was Texas A&M against Houston. No, not Texas A&M against Houston. Oh man, I forgot it again. Who's Marquette playing? Colorado. Marquette was
yeah,
playing Colorado, and it was like Colorado was down three, and their point guard took a 3-point shot to try to tie it up with like 15 seconds to go, but he was like triple covered in the corner, fading out of bounds, and I was like, why are you taking that shot? And it didn't go in, obviously, but like that's what makes college basketball so special is like
yeah,
that shot goes in, it feels like 40% of the time, just because of the way college basketball works.
yeah.
And when it does go in, it's like, oh my God.
The,
So
my favorite thing is that you get to watch like player. I watched like a TikTok about this. I forget who made it. I'd give them credit. You get to watch player archetypes that you know have zero chance of being successful in the NBA because the NBA is just a completely different game. But they'll be so interesting to watch. Like DJ Burns on NC State, like 300 pound, like just 6'9", 300 pound big man that just gets the ball in the post and bullies the guy that he's backing down, and then makes like a 4 foot jump hook at like 90% of the time he touches the ball. And you just know for a fact he will not go to the NBA and he will not have a successful NBA career at all. But you get to watch that and it's awesome. Or like someone like Zach Edey, even though being a Wisconsin fan, I don't like watching him, but like players like that, or
yeah.
there'll just be players that are like 6'6" forwards that have no jump shot, like no skill, but just like go 1,000 miles an hour and grab 12 offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow, like that guy is awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. And then occasionally you'll have like certain teams like Marquette with Tyler Kolek,
Yeah.
who's just like he's just like a really good like point guard who kind of sees the court very
Yeah.
well.
Those guys are
But
fun to
like
watch too.
he's like 6'1", and I don't know how athletic he is. He does have some scoring prowess. I'll say that like he can get to the rack.
Yeah, he's a
Uh,
really good player.
he's a really good player.
Or like the 5'10", like ball dominant, like
Yeah.
high volume shooter
A couple
that,
years ago,
yeah,
yeah. Well,
that
that's the
just
thing
like
too.
isn't gonna make it in the NBA because he's 5'10" and he's not gonna be able to do what he's doing in the NBA. But it's
Yeah,
like when Carson Edwards exploded, probably what was that, 5 years ago?
yeah.
It was like this is insane. But then he like couldn't do anything in the NBA.
What was it? Markel Noel last year. Uh,
Marquise, right?
he's Noel. Yeah, yeah.
For
That's
Kansas State.
yeah.
He's in the NBA, but like not
He
doing.
is. Yeah, it's not doing much at all. What's funny though is covering college basketball, you have the same conversation where it's like, oh, this kid's really good at high school basketball, but he could never play like his style would never translate to Division 1. And it's interesting to see what does and doesn't. Like we have there's a kid who's in our area who's like 6'6". He's a sophomore and he just is cannot miss from three. And it's like, oh, so obvious, like, yeah, he's gonna play Division 1 basketball. Like it's everyone knows it. He's already
Yeah.
gone on, whatever.
Like you have to have a specific skill set to fit
Yeah.
somewhere. It can't just
And
be
then there's
really good
like
at something. Yeah.
then there's other kids who like are super ball dominant. They average like 30 points a game on the best team in the area. But it's like, well, he's 6'2", and you know, the shots he's making, he's not gonna make them in college. And it's like, no, he's so good. Like he's so good. But it's
Yeah.
it's just interesting that those conversations are had. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. College basketball was fun. And I just hope like last year the Final Four was kind of disappointing.
It was just
Well,
weird.
disappointing. What's that?
College basketball, I feel like, is just in a weird spot overall right now.
It is. I mean, we have Cooper Flag coming next year. He'll be a big star for Duke. Cameron Boozer, I think the year after is coming. So there are stars coming. I think we've had a couple straight years of like Scoot Henderson played for that G League team. So did the dude on the
Jalen
Rock,
Green.
Jalen Green. Yeah. So it's just like some of the best draft prospects have just opted not to go to college basketball. And now that NIL exists, I think we're gonna see kind of that pendulum
Swing
swift
back.
back
Yeah,
to college basketball. Um, obviously also just the European star has just been so big in the NBA that like when it comes to draft prospects, like the top of the draft most of the time has been like the guys from who are playing in the Euro
yeah,
League. So, we'll see.
yeah.
Um, I would like to see college basketball have a renaissance the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's such a great thing once March Madness starting in combination of like spring starting is the most just exciting part of the year.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Opening day tomorrow for baseball too. People forget.
People forget. I'm not much of a baseball guy, so that doesn't move me that much, to be completely honest.
I'm a big
But
baseball fan.
that's very
I'm a
cool.
big Go
That's very
Jays.
cool. Um, so unless you have anything else on that, um,
Think
kind of
so.
switching topics again, calling back to what you were talking about in the beginning of this, where you were like, "Oh, I grew up whenever I wanted to chill, relax, I want to play video games." But now, kind of at this age, when I have a bunch of free time now, I want to use it to,
Yeah.
propel myself forward. I don't know if you've been seeing this. Been seeing a lot of like TikToks and stuff where it's like that moment when I'm 25 and my prefrontal cortex fully develops and they like make a joke about how they're like playing video games and then they stop everything and they're just like, I have to start a business, like something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's some truth to that. Obviously, it's not just you're doing something one day and all of a sudden your brain completely changes, and that's a gradual thing. But I feel like I'm kind of in that spot now where, like, what you were talking about too, when you have free time or something like that, you'd rather spend it developing yourself
Mm,
versus just like, oh, I'm gonna just kill time playing video games type of thing.
yeah.
And I don't know if you wanted to go any deeper into
Yeah. Well,
that.
I think for me, when I do like when I was saying like, oh, I don't want to, just chill and play video games. I honestly do think there's like a time and place to just like chill and play video games. Like I
Yes.
don't want to burn myself out. And that's the thing too, is like because I've worked so much, the last couple of years, like there's been that swift of like, okay, like I work hard, I'm gonna, quote unquote work hard, play hard, I'm gonna after I'm done with work, I'm gonna just chill. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna, make sure I'm just hanging out. And I think it goes back to that work-life balance is like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't, quote unquote, maybe I shouldn't work as hard, not actually, but like maybe I should take more time to myself. For me also like the whole like trying to develop myself, not just, with my like going to the gym and trying to work for myself, trying to create stuff for myself independent of my work. I also think it has to do a lot with like your health. And like once you get older, man, like when you're in high school, you kind of feel like invincible. You know what I mean? Like everyone has that high schooler. It's like, oh, I'll be okay. Like, I'll be fine. Like I'll, eat whatever I want and I'll be okay. I'll,
Yeah, you
you know,
live off of like a Red Bull, a Twinkie, and like two vape rips in the morning.
yeah, and you'll be fine, dude. You'll be chilling.
That's like
Do not do
80%
that.
of high school.
If you're a high schooler, do not do that.
No,
We're not telling you to do that. But
no.
that is what people did.
That's how
Uh,
like 80% of society functions 18 and under,
yeah. So
22 and under, really.
22 and under, yeah. And so now that I'm like have gone through, 4 years of college and like your body slows down because you're just not moving as much. Like at least for me, like it was just like you're not moving. Like when you're in high school, dude, you're moving all the time. When I were working I was working in a retail job, I was moving like all the time. Like all you're doing is you're running around, pacing back and forth, constantly moving. Like you're using energy. Whereas like now I'm in a job where a lot of my job is driving and a lot of my job is sitting at my desk editing. Like I'm just not moving as much. And it's like, oh, well, like you get more stagnant. And for me, it's like, well, I don't want to, I still want to be active. So for me, it's like trying to just like be healthier. Like
Yeah.
looking back at what I was doing when I was 18, it's like, all right, well, I'm not going to do what I was doing with my diet. I'm on a better diet, but I do want to move more. Like I feel like that's something in
Yeah.
America that we don't really realize. Like we don't move around enough. Like Americans
People
just don't
always
walk
think like, oh yeah, I graduated high school or whatever, and then my metabolism slowed way down because I was getting older. I feel that happens way like later in life. it does happen at some point where your metabolism does slow down. But I think people are too quick to point to that to being the problem as to why they're gaining weight or whatever, and not realizing, oh, when I was in high school, I was getting up every single day at 7 a.m. and I was moving around all day, and then I was going to whatever sports practice from 3 to 5, and then I was doing this and this and moving around 10 times more. And then all of a sudden I'm 25 and I have work at 9, and then I sit down for 8 hours, and then I go home, and then I sit down, and then I go to sleep.
Yeah, way more active when you're
Yeah.
high school, and that's something I wish I'd realized sooner. Was like, oh, I just like that. Like I just need to be more active. But it's also hard when you again the same thing. You work 9 to 5, and then at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you're just tired. You know, you just want to go home
Yeah.
and sit, but you have to fight that urge.
Not saying it's easy to change that. I'm just saying people think
No,
it's something they can't control, and it's just, oh yeah, my
absolutely.
body is slowing down. When really, no, it's just what's
Your
actually happening.
Yeah,
And
your
it's good to
routine is slow.
understand that, and then being like, okay, how do I solve this problem? How do I fight against that?
Yeah, I also think like yeah, I mean, we are getting older and trying to get more mature. I mean, we're 22. Like, I wonder how much more brain capacity I'm gonna have in 3, 4 years.
We're waiting until we're 25 and we have
Yeah,
brain.
we'll have this, we'll table this discussion until we're 25. No, but yeah, I mean, I think there is like this whole idea of like it's stressful being at this age because it's like almost like you feel a pressure to want to do everything in life. Like
Mhm.
after I finished that I think I mentioned it last week. After that big project, I was like, what if that's the last big thing I do? And I was like, no, it's again, I'm 22. What the hell am I talking about? Like that, if that's the last big thing I do, like something went wrong.
Yeah.
Um, so there's just a lot of pressure I think people put on each other at this age because it's like you feel like you're not doing enough, but then you feel like you don't have any free time because you're doing too much. And then, you just sort of go back and forth. But I think it's just for me right now, like, and I think people need to, it's like just have like a healthy work-life balance. Work hard, work at yourself, try to build your career, but also like take care of yourself or else you're gonna
Mhm.
regret it, I feel like.
Yeah. We talk about this all the time. It's just the 22, 23-year old right out of college is just a very weird time in life
Yeah.
because no one takes it seriously, and you don't really fit in anywhere that isn't like your exact age.
Yeah.
Because even like if you go 2 years younger than you, like people are in college, and that's a very different age and time period. And 2 years older, people are 2, 3 years into working, and it's like not the same. I don't know. It's just a weird time overall.
Yeah, it is. It is weird and it's a little bit scary, but it's also just like I feel like time kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean there's like pressure to be like, okay, I got to figure out like my mainstay, like what will I be doing for the next 5 years, and you know, until you find that thing, and it is kind of like stressful, but it's also like, well, you could just keep doing what you're doing for the next, like, there's no rule against continuing what you're actually currently doing,
Right.
um, and just getting better at that thing, that
Yeah.
craft. Um,
All right. Is there any other topics you wanted to hit before we do the last thing we were talking about?
I don't think so. I think we've covered a lot. We got our sports fix, and then we
Yeah.
talked about it a week. I think that was really it. No, I
I
think
feel like we
we,
have a good kind
yeah,
of framework going now where it's like we just kind of talk about it a week, and that's going to lead into something.
yeah, for sure. I agree. I
So
agree with that.
I like the
Yeah.
way this one went. But do you want to explain
Yeah.
what the idea you had?
Yeah. So last week we talked about like one life goal that we have. Tim's was to run a marathon. Mine was to have kids at some point in our lives. And we discussed that, and obviously we're doing this weekly, and a lot of this show is about talking about our week. So we thought, let's make it more granular. Let's have a weekly goal, just a quick little weekly goal as to what you want to do this specific week, as opposed to, we can't do a life goal every single week, or else we're just gonna, man, that bucket list is gonna be pretty long.
Right.
So Tim, I'll start with you. You got any weekly goals for this week as you go to Florida?
Yeah, so I'm going to Florida. I'm leaving tomorrow on a Thursday, and I'm coming back the following Sunday. So good amount of time, week and a half 10 days. Gonna be really good to see my family. My cousins are even visiting and they'll be there for Easter, which will be really fun. Really looking forward to it. But my big goal for the week, obviously I'm not gonna have a extremely like productive week, but
Mhm.
I over the last few years have been very, very strict with my dieting and things like that. Grew up overweight and then went on like a big weight loss, yeah, journey, whatever you want to call it, and have been struggling to find where I want to like sit in terms of balance on that, because I've been
Mhm.
on one way end of the spectrum where I was eating whatever I wanted in high school and stuff like that, was overweight, and then way on the other end of the spectrum where I was eating arguably too little, just restricting myself too much for really what's the benefit at the end of it. Um and in the last week or so, has been the first time in a few years that I have not been like meticulously tracking my food either on a meal plan or logging everything into my fitness pal. And I want to kind of my goal for this week is to go and enjoy my vacation, not track anything, but also not come out of it feeling like, oh my God, I just binged for a week
Right.
straight. I all I ate was donuts and cheeseburgers the entire time. I feel like crap. So being able, my goal for the week is to be able to trust myself to make good decisions like that. Very much enjoy my vacation. I'm expecting to come back a few pounds heavier. And my goal is to be okay with that, realize that this is a vacation that I'm supposed to enjoy, and feel good about it at the end.
I like that. Yeah, finding balance. Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that for sure. For me, sort of a little bit on the other end of the spectrum, a little haps. I have mentioned that I've been going to the gym more often,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to continue doing that. I want to do that. I mean, we're gonna probably record an episode again, in a week. So we'll say the next 7 days. Probably won't be able to go to the gym on Easter because I don't think the gym is open on Easter. So I want to go to the gym at least 5 of the next 7 days. I've done 4 of the last 6 days. So I want to, just keep doing that. I want to make it a habit. I feel like
Love it.
just keep doing that, just getting in better shape every week. Because I've certainly over the last 4 years of college and working mostly. I think honestly a lot of it is probably more due to working as much as I do, have sort of lost that balance of working but also taking care of myself. So I want to just get back in the gym 5 of the next 7 days. That is the goal. Hopefully your boy can reach it. You know what? I'm not gonna say hopefully. I will reach that. I will reach that. So that is my goal.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all we got. I really like the way this one went as well. I feel like
Yeah.
we're kind of slowly finding our kind of groove with this.
Yeah. Me as well. We appreciate you guys listening, watching. So this is on YouTube right now.
Hmm.
Did we Spotify. Is there a Spotify account that people will listen to this on? Or
I'm pretty sure we have one.
we do have one. All right, well, we'll figure that out. Right now, appreciate you guys watching on YouTube. We can figure that off air. And be sure same time next week, around the same
Next
time next
week
week.
to record, I just either have to do it in the morning or I'll be back next Sunday and I can film it.
Okay, well, I can film in the morning. So I'm always free in the morning, so that is cool with me. We will. I want to. We should. Are we planning to air these every Wednesday? Is that what we want to say? I think
Tentative
like
plan.
these two. Yeah, so we'll do every Wednesday. So every Wednesday, be sure to check out our YouTube, and we'll have a new episode for you. And eventually, we're gonna be having some guests on.
Yeah, hopefully next episode.
Yeah, so
Both our
we'll see
first
what that
guest.
goes, but we appreciate you guys listening, appreciate you guys watching. Like and subscribe, as they say.
Mm.
Give us 5 stars. But we appreciate all you guys listening.
All right. Thanks, guys. Peace out.